Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
Well, a post from Vice President J.D. Vance is drawing fresh attention on the crisis facing Armenian Christians, putting a global spotlight on a story many say isn't being told loudly enough. Why is this moment so significant, and what does it mean for Armenia and the Armenian Church? In just a minute, we're going live to Zurich, Switzerland, to hear firsthand from Christian Solidarity International's Dr. Joel Veldkamp.
And here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. What are you planning to do for that special someone in your life?
I'm not
You're not going to tell, right?
Especially not here.
Well, the founder and president of the Marriage Hub is here with some ideas. Plus, learn about a conference for couples who want to tune up their marriage.
I don't need any ideas, Debra. I've got it.
Okay.
Well, a deleted post by Vice President J.D. Vance has reignited debate over America's long struggle to call the 1915 killing of 1.5 million Armenian Christians a genocide. For decades, U.S. leaders avoided the term, balancing historical evidence against diplomatic ties with Turkey. In 2021, the United States officially recognized the killings as genocide under then-President Joe Biden. The move aligned with the overwhelming view of historians on the issue.
Well, Christian Solidarity International is a religious watchdog group that backs persecuted Christians worldwide. The nonprofit is raising new concerns about pressures facing Armenia's most ancient Christian church. Now, last week, CSI's Director of Public Advocacy, Dr. Joel Veldkamp, visited a jailed archbishop.
That's Bagrat Galastian.
Very good. The Archbishop wrote a letter to the Vice President saying the church is simply doing what it has done for 1,700 years, safeguarding the Armenian nation. CSI says tension is growing between church leaders and government authorities, prompting international attention.
So as these events unfold, American Christians face some important questions. First, what are the verified facts? What responsibility do believers have when fellow Christians claim persecution? Does labeling an atrocity genocide rather than mass killings change our response? The term genocide, of course, carries legal and moral weight. But beyond all this terminology, the deeper question is whether we confront suffering thoughtfully, with clarity, engagement, and care rather than outrage alone. So joining us this morning from Zurich, Switzerland is CSI's Director of Public Advocacy, Dr. Joel Veldkamp. Joel, thank you for coming back to Morning Light. We were expecting to see snow-covered mountains for some reason this morning, but it looks beautiful there in Zurich. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here. Thank you, Jeff.
You just returned from a trip to Armenia, and you visited with a jailed leader of the Armenian Church. What did you see and experience on the ground that stood out to you the most from this visit?
Yeah, when we went into this prison to meet this archbishop who's been in jail for the past 8 months, I had never done anything like this myself, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I hoped that we would be able to bring him some encouragement during his imprisonment for his faith, but it was really the opposite. He was so positive, he was so full of energy and purpose, and we could really tell he knows why he's in prison, and he's happy to do that because he believes he's safeguarding the future of Christianity in his country. So we really left much more encouraged by him than I think he was by us. So it really gave us the motivation to continue speaking out for the Armenian Church and for the Armenian people.
So that's a beautiful witness and a testimony, obviously, to the power of God for people experiencing extraordinary suffering. It's the same story from the New Testament forward. For those who may not be familiar, who exactly is the Armenian Church? Why is it such a central part of the identity of this country?
Yeah, it's a central part of the country's identity because Armenia is the first country that converted to Christianity in the year 301 AD. So about 20 years before the Roman Emperor Constantine converted and ended the persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire. And ever since then, the Armenian Apostolic Church has been the glue that really holds the Armenian nation together. For most of the last 1,700 years, there was no Armenian state. There was no country called Armenia. There was just a people called the Armenians who were united by this church, whether they lived in modern-day Armenia or Syria or France or Nigeria or anywhere else. So this is one of the oldest churches in the world. It's part of what we call the Oriental Orthodox family of churches. So that unites them with Christians in Egypt and Syria and Ethiopia. They have their own traditions, their own liturgy, but they affirm the Apostles' Creed, they affirm the Trinity, they believe that Jesus is the only Lord and Savior, and they have the same Bible as we do. So they look a little different at first glance, but they are very much our brothers and sisters. And in fact, for Western Christians, they are our forebears in a way. They are the guardians of a tradition that's even older than ours.
So what has kept the dialogue from happening between Christians in America and the Armenian Church? Why is it when many of us are hearing about this, we feel like it's for the very first time, and we're saying, where have they been all our lives, and where has this story been in terms of understanding the larger picture of what God is doing in the world?
It's interesting. Our grandparents and our great-grandparents did not have this problem because when the Ottoman Empire was massacring Armenians in the 19th century, or when the Armenian genocide happened in the 1910s, American Christians were on it. This was the first broad-based humanitarian movement in the country. Something like $2 million in 1920s dollars was raised for the survivors of the Armenian genocide by Armenian Christians. Armenia was a household name. Herbert Hoover famously wrote in his memoirs that the average school child in America probably knows Armenia better than any other country other than England. It's what happened in between then and now that has separated us. So
what happened in between? What happened from a very clear understanding that these were brothers and sisters who experienced atrocities to today? I know the story of people like Senator Bob Dole, who had famously this relationship with an Armenian doctor, the doctor who saved his life on the battlefield. What is it that interrupted that story?
Basically, Armenia was conquered by Russia and became part of the Soviet Union. So it was behind the Iron Curtain from 1920 until 1991. So already it would be hard for Western Christians to maintain contact with the Armenian Christians that way. And they were really, really intensely persecuted by the communists until the 1950s. And in the 1950s, the communist government gave them some freedom, some leverage, I guess.
So it's communism that happened, really?
Armenia was under communist rule, yes, in the Soviet Union.
So given all that history, dating back to the 300s, what is the thread today to today's Armenian Christians, and how is that current crisis affecting the church and everyday believers? Is the church shrinking? Is it growing? What does persecution there look like?
So the Armenian nation is really facing an existential threat right now, by which we mean in 20 years, 30 years, there may not be an Armenia anymore. 2 years ago, a neighboring dictatorship, Azerbaijan, attacked a part of the ancient Armenian homeland called Nagorno-Karabakh and drove 120,000 Armenian Christians out of their homes. They're all now refugees in what we call the Republic of Armenia.
Wow.
The Republic of Armenia is now very weakened, and it's surrounded on both sides by Turkey, which is the country that carried out the Armenian genocide, and Azerbaijan, which is the country that ethnically cleansed Nagorno-Karabakh 2 years ago. And these powers have made it very clear that they want to control Armenia. They don't want Armenia to have sovereignty. They don't want it to be able to act independently. And Azerbaijan has made it clear that they want to settle many of their own people on Armenian territory. And if that happens, Armenia will really cease to be a safe place for Armenians to live. Just as if you were to settle hundreds of thousands of foreigners in Israel, Israel would very quickly cease to be a safe place for Jewish people to live.
So I need to ask then, this debate surrounding seems like a simple debate, seems like maybe a clerical error, but I don't think, you seem to think that the Vice President J.D. Vance and the Second Lady go to the memorial for the Armenian genocide, a very moving, poignant scene, this eternal flame, laying flowers, laying a wreath, giving really all the validation that America could give, and then calling it a genocide, something that began under President Biden. And then the tweet is deleted, and it appears that we've gone back to language saying that that this was not historically, legally, spiritually a genocide. Why is that important today, and how does that connect to today's suffering?
It's important because it shows that the US government is taking Turkey's side, and that when Armenia faces this existential crisis, they will get no help from the US. That the best that they can do is go to Turkey and basically hope for good terms. And one of the terms that Turkey and Azerbaijan have imposed on the Armenian government is that they should stop the Armenian church from acting independently.
I see.
The Armenian...
We've got about 2 minutes left. I want to cover what CSI is doing and how you think Americans should be helping the Armenian brothers and sisters, the church, there today.
Yeah, the Armenian church is under attack by the Armenian government, which is basically acting now at the behest of Turkey. We should be raising our voices. We should be letting President Trump know that Christianity is under assault in Armenia, that Armenia is in danger of being destroyed, and it's up to him basically to stop it, because no one else certainly is going to help. So CSI, we're trying to raise awareness about this. We will continue to visit bishops in prison. We're continuing to bring aid to the refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh, medical aid, housing aid, but we certainly can't do this on our own, and the situation could not be more critical.
Down to the last minute, what are you taking away from the Armenian church and from the believers that you talked to firsthand? I saw the images of your travels and the leaders of CSI there on the ground. What did you come back with from their witness?
I always come away with their bravery. These are people who many of them have lost their homeland. They've lost everything they ever owned. They lost the graves of their parents when they were driven away by armed troops. The Archbishop who we met, of course, is in jail. But none of these people have given up. None of these people believe that this is a hopeless cause, and they all think it's worth going to prison for. They all think it's worth continuing to fight for. So if they haven't given up, we can't give up either. We will stand with them for as long as it takes to assure the survival of Christianity in this region.
We've had your website on the screen. The next step for someone who wants to engage on this issue is to what? Is it to contact their senator, their congressman, to write the White House? Where should the pressure be applied to say, hey, we get this and we want to stand in solidarity with our Armenian Christian brothers and sisters?
At this point, I think the White House needs to hear directly from American Christians who care about their brothers and sisters in Armenia. White House needs to hear that the persecution of the Armenian church needs to stop, and that the refugees need to be able to go back to their homes, and that the hostages that are still held by Azerbaijan need to come free.
Well, Joel, thank you for making time to talk with us this morning. Christian Solidarity International, shining a light on the persecution of Armenian Christians in so many other hotspots around the world. We appreciate the extraordinary work that you and your colleagues at CSI are doing. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Well, coming up on Morning Light, Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Don't forget, roses, a fancy dinner. What are your plans for that special someone in your life? The Marriage Hub is up next to give us some direction on what the Bible has to say about romance. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. Valentine's Day originated as a Christian feast day honoring a martyr named Valentine. It has become a significant cultural, religious, and commercial celebration of love and romance. So what should we do for the special person in our life? To help answer that question is Dr. Bruce McCracken, founder and president of the Marriage Hub. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having us.
Remind us again about the Marriage Hub.
Well, Marriage Hub is a ministry based here in Lancaster County, and we work at helping couples primarily in crisis rebuild their marriage and try to save their marriage if they're on the verge of divorce. But we're also venturing back into the field that I initially started the ministry for, which is marriage enrichment, trying to keep couples from getting to the point where they need to see our intensives. And we can help them thrive before they get to a place they don't want to be.
So tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
Yes.
How should couples celebrate?
Well, Debra, that really depends on the couple. I mean, what they like to do. I mean, Hallmark has created Loveuary, right? And they've manufactured cards and all the fun stuff that allegedly go with us. And we have the, I'm going to call them cliche ways of celebrating. But, you know, each couple wants to do it differently. Some couples want to have some sort of celebration, something special. Some might want more of an experience. They go out, do some shopping together, couples massage, or take a little trip, weekend retreat, or something along those lines. There's no right or wrong way, just so that both spouses agree that this is a way to celebrate who they are and how they're loving each other.
I was in the grocery store the other day, and you see balloons, all kinds of flowers. It's really amazing. So many people spend so much money on things like this. Is it necessary?
Well, again, it goes, how much does your spouse appreciate those gifts? But, it's kind of funny. I get the balloon that I saw while I was shopping. And you think, okay, that took a lot of thought, didn't it? So I would say, no, it's not necessary. I think Valentine's Day is something that should happen every day. That if we're just celebrating romance one day a year, our marriage is probably in trouble. And, romance is all about feelings, and love is all about action. And, if there are no actions to back the symbols of romance, if I can call them that, they're not going to have a whole lot of impact and a whole lot of power.
That's certainly true. What does the Bible say about, say, occasions like Valentine's Day? Well,
I think that two things come to mind. The Song of Solomon, which was a song celebrating their wedding, and they were celebrating each other and affirming each other and saying beautiful things to each other. That's certainly romance and romantic. And then Ephesians 5, there's a verse in there that says we want to nourish and cherish. And that whole idea of cherishing is the idea of romance. And again, romance is an exciting feeling, but hopefully it's again backed by those actions of being who we need to be, demonstrating our love.
And it is really something that we should be doing this every day.
Yes.
This is not just a one-day thing.
Right. But it might not be celebrated. I mean, my act of love might be helping Karen with the dishes or doing something that isn't romantic, but it's certainly a demonstration that I care for her and trying to help her, and I'm demonstrating some love to her, right?
Yeah, Karen being your wife.
Correct. 52 years.
Yes. And how have you held this together for 52 years? That's a long time.
Well, I married up is what I did. So, one of the things that we have our couples do is we have them share with each other 5 things they love and appreciate about each other. And the first thing I always share with Karen is her walk with the Lord, her love for Him, which is the one who gives her the ability to love me the way I need to be loved, and hopefully gives me the ability to love her the way she needs to be loved. So, yeah, we've had ups and downs. I mean, I joke a little bit, 52 years, and I say, 49 of them have been happy. The first 3 years I did all the changing, but it's all good.
Yeah, it takes both, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, great. We do need to take a break, but we do want to talk to you more in our next segment. So still to come on Morning Light, there are many couples who may not be struggling but want to do something to make their marriages stronger. Well, we'll learn about a couples weekend retreat that may give you the guidance you need. Stay with us. We are back right after the break. According to a recent poll, between 40 to 50% of marriages end in divorce, although rates have been declining. So if you want to keep your marriage thriving, the Marriage Hub is offering you a great opportunity. Founder and president Dr. Bruce McCracken is here to talk about a couples weekend retreat. That sounds so exciting. Just a time to get away. So tell us about that.
Well, as we were just talking about, we want to celebrate, and the weekend retreat is something where we're having couples get together, and we want to help encourage them, inspire them, and give them some information to help them build the marriage that they want to build. A lot of us as couples, we do life over and over every day, and it's easy. Karen's the easiest person in my world to neglect, because we are husband and wife, and we want to make sure that we check in and see what's going on.
Right, and this is a perfect opportunity because, as you said, we do get so caught up in everything that we're doing, and just to take time for ourselves, to look at it at each other as a couple, and how can we improve? What things do we need to really work on? What is the theme?
The theme is renewing. Marriage renewed. So it's kind of a basic theme, but we want to renew, rekindle, and, re-inspire, if you will, couples to move forward. And We're planning a Friday night event, where we start off with a fun little kickoff, and Karen and I will be leading the weekend, so it'll be fun. And we have fun, but we're going to give couples about 30, 40 minutes of content, and then we're going to let them talk together for 15 or 20 minutes. So one of the things that we love to do in our marriage weekends is what we call knee-to-knee, nose-to-nose, because a lot of couples do not talk face-to-face too often, nor do they talk about their marriage and what's going on. So, basically our conversations during the day are logistics, but now we're going to be talking about how are we doing, what's going on with us.
And what are some of the points that you want to talk about? Well,
we're really going to focus in, Debra, on Genesis chapter 2. And I think, Moses gives us a little building blocks. I like to call them the 4 pillars of marriage. And it's the idea of making our spouse the first priority, keep pursuing each other, I like to say we don't fall out of love, we fall out of pursuit. We stop pursuing each other. And then possess, be able to accept and embrace and love all there is to love about our spouse, and keep getting to know. That verse says, and the two shall become one. It doesn't happen instantly. It's a process that takes time. And then the whole idea of purity, keeping the relationship right. Our relationship with God impacts our relationship with our spouse, and we need to make sure that both those relationships are where they need to be to experience what it is God wants us to experience.
And it takes work. It's not something that just happens just like that.
Well, there's an enemy working against us, right? Because our marriage is supposed to be a pillar of an image of who God is and how he loves for the world to see. So he's going to come after us. But yeah, just the wear and tear of life, not to mention the spiritual warfare mention of it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What do you think really tears couples apart?
At the end of the day, it's our sinful fallen nature. It's our selfishness. I'm not getting what I want, and I'm going to shut down until I get that, which means you're not getting what you want, and you're going to shut down, and where are we both? We're in a bad spot. So how can we, continue to understand that and work through that understanding as we build our relationship as husband and wife? We're, basically being a testimony to the world in which we live.
Right. But it pays off.
It does.
If you put in the work and if you do this, it pays off.
Well, obedience always brings blessing.
And you're with your best friend.
Yep, well, hopefully, that's right. Yep, best friend, and the one you've made a life commitment to.
What do you hope people take away?
Well, I hope what they take away just what it is we've been talking about, understanding who their spouse is, why they're important, how they can make them feel important, how they can keep pursuing, how they can keep building, how they can, increase their love for one another. Yeah.
We also want to talk about a fundraiser that you have coming up in April. Talk to us about that.
Well, I was joking with you a little bit earlier, but it's basically a golf tournament with shotguns. So it's a sporting clay event. And, the guys in the audience will understand what that is. But basically, we take our shotguns and we shoot clay pigeons that go flying across. And we have corporate sponsorships available, teams available. If they have a group of men, even we have some women come out and shoot. They have a good time. It's a lot of fun. Starts at 12 noon on Friday, April 17th, and we'll be done by dinner time. Lunch is served. I think we have a food truck coming in. Going to be a lot of fun, a lot of prizes. And who doesn't like blowing stuff up? It's a good time.
And how does this help your ministry?
Well, hopefully it's going to bring some financial support in that helps us scholarship couples who are in crisis. So it's all about, we're pulling for marriage. That's the theme of the fundraiser. So the whole idea is that we want to help couples, and we can do that by offering scholarships that we have because we've raised the money through the sporting clay shoot.
Yeah. Everything you can do to keep marriages strong. Thanks so much for being with us.
Well, thanks for having us. Appreciate the opportunity.
For more information about the conference or the April fundraiser, visit themarriagehub.com. Stay with us. We're back right after the break.
From Odessa, Morning Light friends. I'm right here in downtown Odessa. Last night we experienced a rather large Russian drone attack, and unfortunately they hit a civilian market in the southern end of town. Also caused a lot of damage to apartments, private homes, and sadly to our friend Pastor Ruslan and his church. Their windows were blown out. There was some damage to the walls. So we appreciate your prayers for Odessa and for Ukraine at this time.
Winter continues to be very difficult here, although in the past day or two, the weather has warmed up a little bit, but unfortunately the Russian strikes have not slowed down.
Welcome back. Well, thanks for that frontline update, Caleb. We are going to be keeping your family and our Ukrainian neighbors in Odessa in our prayers. I know that there are Ukrainian families all across Pennsylvania. Of course, Pennsylvania has one of the largest Ukrainian American populations in the United States. We will be watching. Now, a final word on our lead story this morning, the crisis in Armenia. In 1945, a 21-year-old American soldier was nearly killed on a hillside in Italy. Recognize that face? His courage earned him a Purple Heart. His name? Bob Dole. One of the men who helped rebuild his shattered body and saved the partial use of his arm was an Armenian immigrant, Army Surgeon Dr. Hampar Kalikian. You heard a lot about him from Senator Dole over the years. He's a survivor of what the world still struggled to call a genocide. Decades later, when the U.S. Senate debated that word, now, Senator Bob Dole didn't hesitate. He used it because for Senator Dole, it wasn't abstract history, it was personal. He knew the truth. In this post-truth world, words feel negotiable, part of some diplomatic deal-making. But genocide isn't politics, it's a bright moral line. When Jesus was asked, "Who is my neighbor?" the answer was the one left wounded on the road. Today, that includes our neighbors in Ukraine, in Nigeria, in China, and North Korea. And yes, it includes Armenian Christians. Loving them begins with telling the truth about genocide and present-day persecution. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for spending the week with us. Check on your neighbors. Happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you back here next week.